Senator Savino, I know how hard you worked on this, and I know the passion you've had behind it and the commitment, and I know you believe in your heart, like many others do, that if this bill is to pass, that it actually is going to help people. That's why you labeled it the Compassionate Care Act. And certainly that's an aim. As Senator DeFrancisco and Senator Hannan said, it's pretty difficult to fight against the Compassionate Care Act. But I think as my colleagues have gone a little deeper, I would just share with you that I think everybody in this room wants to help people. They don't want to see anybody suffer. I know that throughout my career I have dedicated a lot of my legislative life helping people with disabilities and mental health and trying to help them live as normal as possible, life as possible, without suffering, without having difficult times. And I also know about what it's like to have a disease and what it's like to hope every day that there's going to be something out there that's going to help you. 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and unfortunately for me, it had metastasized. Went to my back and is now in my lung. For me to stay alive and come here for session, I have to have chemotherapy every 21 days. There are other people in this room who have gone through the same thing. I'm sure there are people in the gallery who have gone through the same thing. After that chemotherapy session, I, like many other people, I get very sick for about 3 or 4 days. And there are probably times that I would take whatever I could take to feel better. I publicly said that if the marijuana were legal and if my doctor said it was okay to take, I would probably try it because you want to feel better. But I also know that this is not a cure. And I just worry about the false hope that might be created as this bill moves forward. I've heard comments from my colleagues, and certainly I respect every one of you, and I would never say that you would intentionally say something that you thought was wrong or inaccurate. But I do believe that we have to be very careful as you move forward with this legislation that we don't give false hope. I heard the word cure used. This isn't going to cure anybody. It's going to make you feel better, maybe. And I don't know that for sure because, as I think Senator Hannan said, it would have been nice to do some trials first before you try to roll out the program. I know that I'm waiting for some trials. I go to Sloan Kettering and I have some great doctors and I talk to them on a regular basis, and I have been on a trial. Unfortunately, it didn't work for me. And that happens, but the trial was approved. It was a trial through the FDA and through the hospital, and they had done extensive amount of research. And they did it with doctors and experts, and you know, one of the things that I like where I go is they deal in just prostate cancer. I go to a big building and that's all they deal with is prostate cancer. The State Health Department is probably one of the biggest bureaucracies in this state. I can't tell you how many times in my 26-year career I've heard many of you get up and rail against the health department, and certainly I might even made a comment or two about a fracking study that I'm waiting for. But it just doesn't make sense, and I concur with Senator Hannan that it's going to take an awful long time to get this off the ground. But at the same time, I do understand that people need hope. And I do understand that this may give people hope, but I just hope it isn't the false hope that I talked about earlier. I would prefer to put my eggs in the basket when it comes to the FDA and to hospitals like Sloan Kettering and not the state of New York or its health department. Because of that, I have a very difficult time supporting this bill. I can't support it. But if it does go forward, if it does pass, I would only hope, Senator Savino, that as its sponsor, and again, I applaud you for your work, that you really make sure that something happens. Because all too often we do something in this state and we pass legislation and we never know, does it ever get enforced? I worry about this one, and I worry about giving false hope to people who may really think that there's something there for them at the end of the rainbow.